Experience is not what happens to a man, it's what a man does with what happens to him. Experience teaches only the teachable. Most human beings have an almost infinite capacity for taking things for granted. Slow down. Happiness is not achieved by the conscious pursuit of happiness. It is generally the byproduct of other activities. Aldous Huxley. About pulling the trigger. Remember what Aldous Huxley said. We participate in a tragedy. At a comedy, we only look. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as infinite. Aldous Huxley. The doors of perception. I think what Huxley is saying is that perception is a constant variable. There are always many factors always impacting one's perception. If you could take away those constant factors, things would appear infinite, infinitely beautiful. For example, take for instance light. If the forces acting on perception were not affected by sunlight and other variables, objects could be perceived as more beautiful. You are seeing them better even than you could imagine. Time seems to stand still. Infinity. If an object had the perfect light, that is, if it was perfectly illuminated, the field of view would probably be shaded, mostly overhead light, not direct sunlight, but the object would glow like it was lit up by direct sunlight. You would be able to see crisp contrast, and fine details like never before. Possibly colors you've never seen before. Your experience could be infinitely the greatest experience ever. Heaven, for example. Imagine how you view heaven. Imagine how it would be illuminated. But that's not the way things are. Our perception is constantly changing. We are constantly trying to adapt to a changing perception. We take notes and make corrections without even really thinking about it sometimes. The process of cognition, the process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. Psychology in shooting. Don Nygroth. To acquire great skills, one must think about every aspect of execution and do so all of the time. But to achieve great performance, one must not think at all. But when performing, you must let the mind-body combination operate on the subconscious level and so do what it was trained to do, without interference of the conscious mind. All effort and focus is to be on execution of the act of firing a shot or series of shots in perfect conformance with the model derived from all that cognition and rehearsal. Your eyes change from day to day. Eat carrots lately. Sight radiuses of pistols are different, one from another. Light you experience from one range area to another range area varies minute to minute outdoors. You must also take into account the direction you are shooting. Changes all require adaptation. How much varies from person to person. Remember, we all perceive things differently. There are things you can do to control your depth of field. Over how long a distance things are in focus. In bright light your natural pupil closes and you get pinhole camera effect. Everything for quite a ways out is in focus. Pistol shooters know this is a no-no. It means the target will be in focus. You do not want that. You want a fuzzy target. Relaxed eye focus is 1.5 meters from face. Your front sight is within that distance. Some shooters may prefer prescription glasses, a lens that focuses stronger on the front sight primarily. The problems. If you do not normally wear prescription glasses, it seems you might have a problem returning to 20/20 vision, returning back to zero. Maybe wearing prescription glasses would lead to having to permanently wear prescription glasses over time. I am not an optometrist. I can't judge how changing from a magnified prescription lens back to normal vision would affect someone's perception. There is no one right lens for all shooting conditions. Not to mention people who wear prescription glasses might have the wrong prescription to begin with. It happens. You will need two lenses, one for regular daylight and shaded conditions, and you will need one stronger lens for stronger light. 3 lenses usually, one to get back to 20/20. This is where sight black could come into play. Bright sunlight. Close combative pistol shooting. Sights. A good pistol sight has to interrupt the shooter's field of vision. If he has to go looking for it, it probably won't happen. Remember, bullets hurt. Side picture. A precise side picture, in which the front sight is sharp, with the rear sight fuzzy, and the target fuzzy will not happen. Target picture is great on a stationary range with good overhead light, but the target is not moving, shooting back at you. If you, the shooter, is trying to find a moving target and move from target to target or track a threat that is shooting back, best that can be achieved is the insertion of a contrasting image into the eye target line, i.e., a contrasting front sight color. Use a color not commonly found in nature. If it is going to interrupt the eye target line, it cannot blend into the background. Orange, lime green, brilliant red, and fluorescent blue work best. In other words, you want to learn to aim off the front sight of the pistol and have a sight that easily catches your eye, namely colored sights, glow sights, and fiber optic sights. It again relates to perception. Your rear sight, remember, target picture is great on a stationary range, but the target is not moving and you are not moving along with the target. Perception psychology. A Necker cube is a simple test of one's perception and its limitations. See figure. A simple wireframe drawing of a cube with no visual cues as to orientation, so it can be interpreted as to have either the lower left or the upper right square as its front sight. The most common interpretation of the Necker cube. People see the lower left face as being front most of the time. Possibly because people generally view objects from above, with the top side visible, rather than from below. So the brain prefers the interpretation that the cube is visible from above. Another reason may be the brain's natural preference to view things from left to right. I personally prefer looking at the Necker cube with lower left as front. It actually makes me uneasy looking at the other interpretation. I think I see mainly the lower left as correct, as I am constantly thinking about imaginary horizon lines and horizon points, and how another image would look next to it, or behind it. I think this might come from learning perspective drawing at a young age and practicing drawing from perspectives. Visual perception is a hybrid of two theories, using memories, experiences, and knowledge to aid understanding of visual information where required. Contrast. People see by contrast, not really light. People do not need to see light, instead they see by contrast. Contrast is the difference in light coming from an object and its background. Contrast detection is the basic task from which all other visual behaviors are derived. Contrast is the property that allows people to detect shapes and contours and ultimately to recognize objects. Viewers see most objects in reflected light. A source such as a lamp emits light that bounces off a surface and then reacts with the eye. Backgrounds change with viewpoint. Negative contrast, aka silhouette contrast, occurs when there is a dark object on a bright background. Newspaper, for e.g. Positive contrast, aka reverse. Silhouette contrast occurs when there is a bright object on a dark background. As light decreases, visibility decreases more rapidly for fine detail than for general shape. Perception of general shape is faster. People mentally process the general shape of an object faster than the fine details. Everyone has had the experience of recognizing a familiar person and then starting to wave or say hello, but then realize it was actually a stranger, only with the same general build, hair, etc. This occurs because the visual system transmits information about larger image areas faster from the eye to the brain. Viewers make initial recognition after seeing a general outline and before details catch up. Beware, that makes bug fever entirety possible. Don't shoot your buddy. Motion impairs perception. Moving objects can blur. The image is downgraded, lowering visibility. Light adaptation impairs perception. I see contrast best when it is adapted to the same light level as the current situation. Walk into a movie theater during the day and see little more than blackness. After a few moments the theater becomes brighter and objects become visible. Eyes adjust sensitivity to the prevailing light level through the process of light adaptation. Visibility loss is greater when the difference between adapting level and viewing level is high and there is little to no time to adapt, e.g., walking from a dense poorly lit forest to a field of full sun. Different times of day. Direction. Contrast perception will be reduced if a person has spent time looking at a brighter area prior to the time when a object must be recognized. Even time spent viewing a street light or writing on a sheet of paper, which is reflective, could raise adaptation level and impair visibility of subsequently viewed objects. I'm guessing open water has a similar negative effect. Glare has an effect. Glare from a light source that is far brighter than ambient level, e.g., a car's headlights, lowers contrast perception and may also destroy dark adaptation and lower visibility for 4 minutes at a time. Another perception factor to consider is masking, which occurs when a patterned background lies behind the object. The viewer will have more difficulty seeing the object clearly amid the clutter. There are a wide variety of other factors, weather, age, viewer eyesight and glasses. Cognitive factors. Perception is the process of applying stored knowledge to the sensory input and forming an interpretation. Once the image is sensed, you must decide what it is, based on what you know and what you gain through experience. When sensory information is uncertain or ambiguous, as with low light, cognitive factors grow in importance. Heuristics. Problem-solving task humans address by innate cognitive strategies. As a rule of thumb, biases, not in a negative sense, a reasoning strategy that aids in quickly arriving at a correct answer. In dangerous situations, it is dangerous to engage in the slow process of conscious reasoning. Instead, the mind has evolved heuristics and biases to speed the interpretation and make sense of a complex situation. Common cognitive heuristics and biases are innate and normal, operate unconsciously. Most people are unaware their interpretations are affected by such operations. Experience creates expectation. People become skilled at jobs through learning and development of expectation. Beginners act in a controlled mode, where they must stop and consciously think about every decision. Their performance is slow and inefficient and usually errorful. Through learning, people switch to automatic mode, where responses seem to occur without conscious thought or decision. The skilled person learns what to expect and can act without need for conscious decision making, such as recognizing objects. It is often said, seeing is believing. It is equally true that believing is seeing.